Hello everyone, my name is Drewmatth and today we're going to do a tutorial on more of the theoretical side, so no gameplay for today. Sorry if you don't like it, you can skip it, but this will be an educational video for beginners to advanced players. Now, what I want to talk about is something that plagues all of us, the fact that Taliyah mid plus top plus jungle plus support plus bot combined play rate has somewhere around 1% or less than Ivern or so, if I read the statistics right. At the current moment on mid and jungle, I think she's most played. Just jungle statistics show up, sometimes not even those, and it's like below 0.5% for all of them. So her abysmal play rate plus the fact that she hasn't been changed in some time, probably some years, makes her a very difficult champion to climb. And this video today will be to maybe motivate you to play her in ranks and to practice her, maybe to pick her up. That's one thing, and the second thing, to prove the fact that she is doable up to Grandmaster. You know, I can't say for sure that you can OTP her in Challenger properly against all matchups, but up until Grandmaster, I'm sure it's possible to get there with her. I'm quite sure most people could get there with her if they focus a bit. Now, with enough practice, obviously, it's not going to be simpler than on other champions. It's going to be one of the most challenging things you did in League of Legends, but getting to Grandmaster Challenger with her, it's an achievement on its own if you can OTP her. I've seen supports, I've seen mid laners, I've seen both players. Most likely there are jungle players that exist on every server, and on top I'm not sure, probably I'm the only one, but I think it's doable on all roles because I've seen at least one player on all roles maining her towards that. And Taliyah is probably the only champion in the game that allows you to main her on all 5 roles, and today this tutorial is going to be around what to do mostly at every part of the game for every role, how to generally play her. Sorry, I'll tap there to check on stats. Okay, now before we start, some prerequisites. To climb with her, you need to have motivation first, and that's the mental part. And besides motivation, you gotta have the ability to practice on and on, so discipline as well. Those two are kind of the same thing, they go hand in hand. As the mental part. And if you flame or tilt, this champion is not for you because it's not simple, it's a hard journey, and you don't really want to play it like that because you're gonna give up very soon. If you play on jungle, on mid, on bot, on every lane, most of the time I recommend going for secondary presence of mind, Cup the Grace, and these runes that, well, 2 ability power runes and magic resist or armor based on what you need. On jungle, alternatively, you could probably go for something like Nimbus Cloak to escape better ganks, or Water Walking or Celerity, depending on what you want. But most of the time Taliyah has mana issues, so you'd want Presence of Mind and Cup the Grace for most things. That would be my advice. You can play with something else if you feel like it. Whoops. And so that's one prerequisite. Another one would be playing with Electrocute or Dark Harvest mainly, and not other runes. I see a lot of players going for Eerie, I see a lot of players going for Arcane Comet. Phase Rush might be another option that's decent, but I don't really think losing the damage from Electrocute or Dark Harvest is good enough. Basically, Taliyah is a champion that likes to burst people 100 to 0, and you don't have that damage. I skewed the microphone, hopefully it's still fine. Basically, you don't have that damage from the phase rush. If you have the phase rush, you're not going to have extra damage. I'm doing lots of alt tabs here to check I didn't screw my tutorial. Also, so on mid, on top, Electrocute, and I'd say in jungle, bot and support, Dark Harvest. In jungle, it's arguably Electrocute or Dark Harvest based on how many ganks you're going to do, but we're going to get there as well. Then Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, or maybe here the other rune that deals damage onto the CC targets. But mainly this is what you want for runes. Here you can go for attack speed if you do a jungle, or magic resist if you are against AP and stuff like that. For items, for all lanes, I recommend eventually getting GLP besides jungle, where obviously your jungle item goes into Eludance. And so if you're support, you go for support item then GLP, obviously buy words after that. If you're mid, you go straight to GLP. If you're top, you go straight to GLP. If you go straight to GLP. Or you can go for alternative Ludance, but that would mean you have someone to CC or you hit very well your Ws. On bot, it's doable if you have an ADC with CC on support, or a support with CC on ADC. On top, on mid, you need junglers with CC. This is better for wave clear, for pushes, but generally this this item enables you. Now let's hope for the next moments, the next preseason, that Taliyah is going to get changed, not her necessarily, but the items that will enable her to get changed in the meta to be better. And so let's hope she's not this abysmal play rate champion that nobody barely plays now. I even seen it, there are drops in everywhere. I don't see that many players playing her anymore, simply because she's not that strong. But still, I will talk about all roles a bit summary right now. If you main her on mid or jungle, those are the first two. On mid, your goal early game will be to try to get to that GLP and then try to kill opponents with GLP WQ combo. They will flash out, after they flash out you kill them, that's all you gotta do. On lane you gotta survive, because you're against AP assassins, AD assassins, long range mages, everyone can shove you out and push you, because early on you won't have that much mana, and you gotta be resourceful, you don't have to die, you just gotta lose a little bit CS if you can, unless you can't really win. If you can't win, just destroy the opponent. But your goal on mid and on top mainly is to help your jungler if you can on 2 versus 2 trades, because that's where she shines, especially if your jungler has some form of CC. So after that, if you survive the lane phase, you scale into the mid to late game, you do some good ults, WQ combos with GLP, you try to trap people, you can win the game from that. But the lane phase is abysmal on mid lane. On other lanes it's more fine, but I suppose this is what I want to talk about first. Let's get it out of the way. So you gotta survive, and on all lanes you gotta buy vision wards, a lot of vision wards. This is your most crucial item right here. You gotta buy 100 of those. I buy sometimes 4 or 5 when I'm playing mid or top. I am going also for Oracle Lens if I don't have at least 2 on my team, support and jungler. And when you're jungle you have to always get it most of the time. Always get it most of the time doesn't sound right. Alright, so on mid you gotta understand that if you survive the lane phase with an even CS and you don't necessarily get kills, or you did 1-2 roams, successful roams on the jungle or on the bot, and you didn't lose that much CS, or you just didn't die, it's fine. If you are 20 CS behind but you have more kill participation than the enemy mid laner and you didn't die, you practically did what the champion asks. Now it's very hard to push the lane, go bot, come back to mid, because most of the time the opponent should push the lane towards you and you will lose CS. But if you can do so, you should try to push when the enemy recalls, put the CS around here, go bot, go back mid, or recall and go back mid, or just recall, go bot and go back mid with ult. Your ult allows for that. GLP stacks, GLP slows enough for you to gank, or before that your jungler or support might CC up for you. That's for the mid. For the jungle you would want to start somewhere red or blue, obviously with the help of someone, because she has an abysmal clear, and you gotta power through that first clear. You gotta abandon camps that are not real good for you, because the opponent might come around. So if you feel like you're playing a Lee Sin that starts red and you start red, odds are he will meet you at the blue. So you gotta play around it, you gotta have either wards here or start blue, and you gotta do camps in such manner that you won't get invaded. That's the crucial part. Crucial part on jungle and mid is not to die early on. Maybe do 1-2 ganks, good ganks if you can. Don't do drakes on jungle early on. Even on mid I'd say that's a bad idea. Early drakes are not that strong. Third, 4th drake are the most strong into the game, because that starts to scale towards the soul. Alright, so if you start here, you can go 2 camps here, you can risk for scuttle if you're playing against a tank, but if you're playing against bruiserish or assassin's jungler, you should be careful around this zone, because there you just collapse on you. 2 champions, 3 champions from their team and another 2 gems for yours, you generally lose, because Taliyah early on is pretty weak, and if you miss your combo you no longer have mana to fight, unless you got blue. But if you start or either blue or red, you gotta just try to power farm through these camps. You gotta try to tell your team that early on you're not that strong, and even if you gank, there might be odds that you miss everything. But if you do have a Renekton on top, something with point and click stun, or something mid with point and click stun, yeah, sure, you could try to gank that, but in general you should be careful. After you get the AP jungle item and you are behind maybe in CS, you will start to power through the farm just like Lila does, and you're going to start to be ahead. And generally you should be fine. I believe she's fine into AP matchup, she's fine into tanks in jungle, but she's still bad on first clears. I'm not sure why anyone would play her instead of Elise, for example, which she power clears through perfectly, which she does much faster. Even Fiddlesticks, let's say. There are lots of champions, AP champions, that does her job better, even Karthus. You just gotta understand the strengths of those champions, and you'll see that they are quite strong in Taliyah jungle. And this is what you gotta do after you are in mid game on both mid and jungle. You have your AP item, either the jungle item, the AP jungle item, or Ludens, or GLP, it's fine. From that point, you should start to deal damage, you start to be strong. Just gotta be careful that people can assassinate you, so you gotta stay onto the mid-back line of your team comp. Now, for items, you generally want to go Oblivion Orb into Warlow if they have lots of heals. This is a meta of heals with Yuumi, with Soraka, with lots of Conqueror users. Sometimes you can go for Abaddons, but most of the time I recommend at least a stopwatch into the mid game. Now, for mid and jungle, you understood what you gotta do. I believe these aren't the easiest ways to climb with Taliyah. I believe the easiest way may be on either top or support ADC. That's what I'm doing on top. And there you can play with Electrocute on top, and on bot you play with Dark Harvest generally. I believe bot would be the most easy, because you go for Dark Harvest, you go for a ring, you go for some support item if you're playing support, and then you just power through the enemy, because Taliyah bottom is quite strong with Dark Harvest because she stacks so fast, and she could simply nuke someone if someone hits a CC, or she could just play with Exhaust as ADC or support and hit her CC herself. You just gotta be careful against Draven maybe and tanks, because those are the strong types that you struggle against, but generally you could do fine, especially into enchanters. You eat up enchanters, but you gotta clear around the vision. And when you play support, you also have the potential to always roam right here mid, or when you play top, you always got the potential to follow this pattern, roam mid, which I generally do on both lanes. I try to gank mid and help this guy. I'm getting an AFK warning. Right. So this is the general stuff that you gotta understand. We gotta power through for two more months until the season ends. We gotta try some alternatives. We gotta power through. We gotta do better. Let me just check if this still works. Alright. So, I recommend picking a lane or a zone where you believe it's the strongest. If you're main jungle, I'd say try her in the jungle, but if you don't like it, no one forces you to. I do not recommend for you to play her if you no longer enjoy her. I barely do at this point on... I enjoy her only on top, to be honest, because it's challenging to beat. Something like Fiora or Jax, but it's way more fun than trying to beat an assassin. It's way more, how can I say, skill matchup, because on mid I don't feel there is a skill matchup against an Akali. That's not a skill matchup, that's a slaughter, right? On top lane you can predict dashes, on mid you can't really predict a Zed or Katarina dash. A good player will always destroy you if they're good. You can just pick something like a counter champion to those like Diana, Buffy, Pantheon, Syndra, and you're going to be fine. On top, if you want to play her, just follow the same route as on mid, go for GLP, play with Ignite, try to get for the kill or Leon, then scale towards mid lane. I do that every time. I just be careful against something like Wukong post 6, just be careful against the tons of Camille's that you're gonna meet. And besides Camille and Wukong, I'm not sure there are many champions that beat you. Maybe Illaoi, Darius. Darius can kill you only if he rushes you down. Illaoi is very hard for her to kill you unless you screw up. There are also some other champions, but most of the matchup should be fine. On bot is the same. If you put Taliyah on bot with an AP mage such as Brand, or an support such as Leona, or an ADC such as maybe Draven or Tristana, you're going to have fun on bot. If you duo with someone like that, you're going to win most of the time if you play careful and if you abuse the aggressiveness that Taliyah has. So basically, if you have a Tristana or Draven, just stay in this basher here, EQW, try to hit people, just ignite them, and then your ADC jumps on them and clears up. It most of the time it works. You just gotta be careful to the jungler. So that's what you gotta do on top, that you gotta do on bot and support. After that, the mid game phase is pretty much the same. You know where to stay, mid to the bottom of the team, you know what to do. Try to do ults, try to follow my other guys if you want to understand better how to ult. You gotta try to kill those people, and you gotta find ways. So I know this might seem like a rant, but I try to get some logic and try to get some motivation in you guys, because it's doable. I'm not sure she's that strong anymore for mid and jungle, where most of the player base, the 10 people that still play her, I'm not sure if you really have chances that well to play her around on mid and jungle. So you gotta try on other stuff, and if you still believe that she's strong on mid, on jungle, well, good luck with it, but I'm not believing that right now. I believe she's stronger elsewhere. And so we just gotta wait and power through, and I guess if you have any more questions, I want to see them in the comments, guys. This is barely a tutorial, most like what you gotta do on all lanes, but most like also motivation, most likely. And so this was what you gotta do on all lanes. I'm Drewmatth, and see you next time. And let's hope she gets buffed or changed. Let's hope she gets better in the future, because I'm really not sure we're at a good path right now. We got the power through these guys, and I know it's not easy, but I'm trying to motivate you as best as I can, and let's hope she gets better eventually. Now, I'm Drewmatth, and see you next time, guys. Goodbye.